Hello. I guess we are ready to go then. That's what I'm going with. Well, Victoria, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Sounds like her and I were speaking just briefly. There we go. Victoria, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. You are live now.
Okay, great. I'm just going to go ahead and get started then. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I really like to thank Victoria Phillips for having me here. Be able to present on creating a thriving nonprofit, thanking donors, and stewardship techniques. And what I'll be sharing today is a whole list of a strategy and then tactics that your own nonprofit can use to make sure that you thank and engage your donors so that you can ultimately retain them and actually get more money. So you're going to be learning the basics of why thanking donors is so important, the best way to thank donors, how thanking donors and additional stewardship techniques, this is monthly giving, can dramatically increase donor retention. Actually, also donor revenue retention, which is the amount of money that your donor base increases giving. It's like their net gains year over year, and ultimately revenue for your nonprofit. So a little bit about me. There's a lot of words on the screen. I'm not going to go through all this, but I have been involved in nonprofits for 25 years. And primarily with Donor Perfect. And just recently, about 2 years ago, I actually started my own company. It's called Simply Fundraising CRM, world's easiest fundraising software anyone can use and everyone loves. Obviously, I'm a little bit prejudiced. But I have been in your shoes. I have worked with local nonprofits. I also work with national nonprofits as well. And I've been fortunate in the local community to raise a few $1 million, actually. Primarily for playgrounds and athletic parks, baseball lights, and parking lots of all things for those athletic fields. So why is thanking donors so important? Well, it's really important to recognize and reward your donors. Donors want to be appreciated and rewarded for giving. What's the overall strategy? As a fundraiser, you must reinforce their own internal reward systems with tactics that's going to make them want to give again and again. And that's what we're going to be talking about. It's all about a systematic way to make the donor feel important, feel recognized, feel special, so that they give again and again. The other way is why it's thanking donor support is that you want to really be the first to thank your donors. Believe it or not, in my experience over the year, the average nonprofit takes more than 2 weeks to thank a donor. 2 weeks. Now, the actual median of that is lower because there are about 13% of nonprofits that never thank their donors, believe it or not. Obviously, thanking is very important. Best practice is to thank donors within 72 hours, but the best nonprofits thank donors the same day. In fact, we used to give out an award for the fastest thank you letter, and that was actually accomplished in typically about 15 minutes, according to the software. And then when she got on stage to receive the award, I asked her how she did it, and she said, lots of coffee. So if that's what it takes to send out those thank you letters in 15 minutes, then that's coffee very, very well spent. So what are the problems about thanking donors? Well, I talk to a lot of fundraisers, and they do thank donors, but they will all admit it's time consuming. I've got other 1,000 other things to do to run my nonprofit. And yes, I know I need to thank donors, but I just don't have enough time. So the solution to that is to build a strategy. And that is to make thanking donors so important. It's a core responsibility of your nonprofit. You want to get everyone involved. The other thing I hear is that thank you letters are hard. Using Microsoft, I'm going to point out Microsoft Word, but mail merge wizards, they never work right. It's complicated. It's hard to send these letters out very efficiently. But that's why there is software out there, and mine's not the only one. There's quite a number of software out there which will automate the acknowledgments and have them still be personalized, not just with the donor's name or address. I mean, typically anybody can do that, but actually putting in specific notes, even handwritten notes, when you're creating those thank you letters. Last thing is a problem. We can't afford it. Sending out letters to the post office and making calls costs too much time and money. But here's the deal. At the end of the day, good nonprofits know that thanking donors brings in more revenue, but great nonprofits know exactly how much, so they can justify the very necessary expense of cultivating and stewarding their donors. So the first part of the whole strategy is be donor-centric first. Donors are people too. Celebrate and cultivate the donor, not the gift. And I know everyone on this call, you are very, very passionate people, or you're watching this video and you're passionate about the nonprofit. You are running around with a million hats on your head. And a lot of times you want to talk all about the nonprofit. But my suggestion is that you have to resist that urge and talk about the donors. When you're communicating with them, it's all about them, and how their giving helps them feel good about themselves. It helps them understand that by giving money, resources, time, services, that then they're able to help the people that you serve. And it's very tempting to talk about and celebrating, oh, we fed so many families, oh, we gave out so many scholarships, we did that stuff. We're such a great nonprofit, but instead use words like thank you, your help. We want to recognize you. You're special. We really appreciate that you help feed 10 families, that you sponsored a child, that you help contribute to this scholarship fund. So by using those words and getting away from I or we is a great first step to be donor-centric first. So here's a sample donor cultivation timeline that one of the nonprofits I know that uses. So day 0, woo-hoo-hoo, the donor gives. And if you're like me, I get email alerts when somebody makes a donation on the page, and I look at it and go, wow, that's amazing. So, but immediately, and especially if they're a new donor, take the time out and call them. Now, what you're going to find is that a lot of times the donor doesn't pick up, but that's okay. That actually saves you time, because then you can thank the donor in a voicemail message, and you can ask them to call back. And in my experience, they will not. If they do, that's great. But many times, just calling and leaving a voicemail does wonders. Again, within very, very quickly is to send a thank you letter. Direct mail is not dead. In fact, recent surveys of millennials, for example, I've read this a year or two ago, they trust mail more than they trust email. So younger donors actually appreciate getting mail. Older donors expect mail because that's the way they've been thanked. But at the end of the day, you do want to accommodate your donors in the way that they want to be thanked. And good software will actually let you designate, hey, this donor wants to be thanked by email only. That's fine. Other donors want a letter only, and then still other donors, they want both. But then on day 7, after 1 week, you start engaging and stewarding the nonprofit. You've already thanked them twice now. We're now going to send them an email, newsletter, or enroll them in whatever email program that you have. Typically, they call that a drip email program. There's tools that do that, but you send them a series of emails over time to just inform them about what's going on with your nonprofit. Then on day 20, again, it's time to recognize and get feedback from the donor. It could be a quick survey, even something like a Google survey, which is free, a Google form. You can send out and say, hey, what is your opinion about the nonprofit, about your gift? Is there anything we can do more? Anything we can do less? There's really no right or wrong way you can do a survey, although you can look up, this is not about how to do a right survey, a donor survey, but just sending it out there in the first place will do wonders, because it's yet another touch point showing the donor how you recognize them. Day 30, if you have a on-site facility or anything like that, it's time to call them again. Invite a donor for a tour. But if you don't have an on-site facility or anything like that, it's yet another call saying, hey, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your donation last month. We really appreciate it. Our work is sending so many people out of Africa. Again, you're going to find that you're going to be leaving lots of voicemails, but these things can also be done in the car when you have downtime, moments like those where you have a list of donors to contact, and you can knock these out very, very quickly. Then on day 45, sending a stewardship letter showing how their gift was used. Many times this can be a standard letter, but it says, hey, I just wanted to reach out to you. It's been a month and a half since we received the gift. Already your gift has made an impact. This is what has happened with your gift. And then because you thank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you're now ready to actually ask them for a second gift solicitation. And in my experience, nonprofits simply do not ask enough. Donors will say they only want to be solicited 1 time a year, but the data clearly shows it's not true, which we're going to show in a moment. Because great stewardship equals great retention. Donor retention is the #1 driver for overall revenue, bar none. Just a slight increase in donor revenue retention can have a dramatic impact on your revenue. And cultivating steward donors has a high return on investment. But the important thing is to make sure that you measure it. Let's just look at a brief graph of what happens with lifetime value. And with that, what will happen if you have a donor retention rate of 30% and you increase it to 40%, your average donor lifetime will increase as well, $200. But just imagine if you're able to go from around the national average of 40% to as high as 60% to even 80%, which you can attain if you use the tactic, for example, monthly giving. All of a sudden, your donor lifetime value, this is what you can expect to receive from your donor over the time that they give to your organization, actually more than triples based on the higher donor retention rate. One thing I talked about earlier is, well, how long should you wait? Well, you'd be surprised. You need to actually not wait that long. Otherwise, the longer you wait to ask your donors again, because even with stewardship calls, things like that, the much less percentage they're going to give. Within 60 to 90 days, just like we saw on the donor timeline chart for stewardship, you're going to find a 75% retention rate once you ask that second gift. But if you wait 3 to 6 months, it starts dropping. 42%, 6 to 12 months. But then after 12 months, in fact, really after 1 year, it drops to 22%. And then after 2 years, it just plummets. This is the donor retention to only 5 to 6%. And which is why typically in most nonprofit organizations, you don't solicit donors past 3 years. It becomes economically unfeasible to do that. You might segment though on your larger donors or your people know, but in general, it becomes difficult. And of course, after 5 years, those donors are long gone. There are other ways to thank donors and make a thriving nonprofit. It really is more than just letters and phone calls. So you can show appreciation on your website. That's easy. You can have a page dedicated to your donors. In fact, what I recommend is to actually profile some of your major donors. Some donors won't want to do this, of course, but my experience, most are tickled pink that you would show such interest in what they're doing because they feel that everyone else is doing it, but all of a sudden, the issue is, of course, not everyone else is giving money. They are, and they should be recognized for that. Probably the best way to have a thriving nonprofit, stewarding your donors, and then actually increasing revenue retention is all about a monthly giving program. Now, I'm sure there's other sessions and seminars through this boot camp that talks about this. So if there's not, there should. But the bottom line is that the easiest way to have a sustainable and repeatable revenue model is to make sure you engage in a monthly giving program because it does a number of things. It actually acts as an automatic steward. When people are enrolled in automatic giving, they do see the gifts that go out. Now, some of them do put it on a credit card and they forget about it, but most do see it, and then they're actually just reminded that they gave that gift. It's almost like a touch point in their brain, releasing that little bit of dopamine that when they first made the gift in the first place. And even though some donors, when they see it, they might call and cancel. That's not my experience. Once a monthly donor lasts for 6 months, then their likelihood to continue dramatically increases. And that's why you should have a check-in after 6 months, because not only can you check in with monthly donors to see how they're doing, but also, in many times, the great nonprofits ask for more money. The great nonprofits will also make sure that you're okay, and maybe they reduce it a little bit. But in my experience, the number of people who give more is about 3 to 4 to 1 than those that ask for less. And of course, if you didn't call at all or get in contact with them all, they might just discontinue, and then you lose everything. There's other ways to thank donors and make a thriving nonprofit. Profile donors in your communications. Have spotlights on donors. Make lots of pictures. Videos. Videos are very simple right now. Most smartphones, and this is a Google Pixel phone from, actually, I don't know, it's all cracked, from 2005. Or no, excuse me, 2018. It's got professional video on here. You no longer have to have special equipment anymore. In fact, I think these cameras really do the trick, but you do have to have lighting. I got a special light right in front of me so that you can see me. Lighting's probably more important. With that, prioritizing handwritten notes. Handwriting notes. Donors know when you take the extra time to be special to do handwritten notes. There's other things to thank donors, and that's actually resolving complaints quickly. Sometimes there's problems with the donation process. Sometimes a donor's credit card gets charged more than once. Sometimes the gift that they gave a major donor, they're not happy with the end results. But just like thanking donors very quickly, you need to resolve complaints very, very quickly. There's a concept of anniversary cards, sending anniversary cards on the date that they first gave, and celebrating the donor that they're giving. And then lastly, there's something about campaign thank you gifts. These are when you're raising a lot of money for a special campaign, a playground, a building addition, or maybe it's for a whole capital campaign that you have. If you have a specific campaign that is raising a specific amount, it does help to reinforce everyone's hard work with a meaningful yet still nominal cost thank you gifts. It could be a photo album book. It could be just a specially created video that's only for donors of a certain level. Either way, there's a way to, again, thank those donors in other ways than calling and writing thank you letters, etc. So with that, I believe we're at the 20 minutes. That's what Victoria asked me to make sure it was at. And I will open it up to questions, hopefully some answers. And Victoria, you're there? And I actually need to run right quick away. Right there. Ah, there's yours. Okay.
Yes. So thank you so much. And I haven't seen any question here yet. So I just saw, can you see the icons, the emojis? So I think maybe we want to speak to you privately at the launch. So what I would do is to end the section, because I didn't see any question here, go to the private launch and see whoever want to talk to you there on the launch. Thank you, everyone. We'll bring this section to a close, and we'll see you at a private launch.
Okay, great.